Hello and welcome. I am Thomas Porteus and you are watching NewsX. A hastily negotiated bill to keep the government open failed Thursday after Democrats and some Republicans objected to a deal to extend the debt ceiling through to 2027. The changes came after President-elect Donald Trump and Elon Musk rejected a bipartisan agreement to fund the government through to next March. The House of Representatives has rejected President-elect Donald Trump's new plan to fund federal operations and suspend the debt ceiling for a day before a government shutdown. The US government will shut down this weekend unless Congress comes up with a plan and acts soon. Congress has time till Friday midnight to come up with a way to fund the government, or else federal agencies will shut down. This means hundreds of thousands of federal employees could be sent home or stay on the job without pay. Almost 36 Republicans joined Democrats to vote against Trump's sudden demands, the quick fix cobbled together by GOP leaders. Thank you and welcome to this debate. My guests today are Robinder Sachdev, Foreign Affairs Expert, Dr. Sharad Kohli, Senior Economist, Professor Madhav Nalapat, Editorial Director of the TSG. Thank you all for joining us. I want to come first to you, Robinder Sachdev. What do you think the main reason for this Trump-backed funding measure failed in the House of Representatives?
Why it failed? That's an interesting question. I mean, maybe we could start with what was the ask by Trump and why, right? Trump wants, essentially, there is a debt ceiling out there for the federal budget of the US government. Trump wants that ceiling either to be, suspended for the next 2 years or increased or even done away with as to how much the federal government can, raise the money through its bonds. That is the key thing, because going in now, when he takes the presidency, he has plenty of things, which he wants to do, and apparently the toll of that will be around $7 trillion. Let's say around $4 trillion for the tax cuts, and the other expenses that he intends will add up to around $7 trillion. As of now, the limit of the federal budget is $31.5 trillion, I think, which was suspended till now. And currently, I think it's running at around $36 trillion. So what Trump wants is to go into his presidency without having any pressures of the budget limit, because in case that budget limit is not pushed back, then he will have to deal with the US Congress and go to them and negotiate with them for his budgetary demands. I think that is the key thing which Trump wants. He wants to come in with a clean slate, having no limits on what he would like to budget in his plans.
And Mr. Kohli, I want to come to you on this next question. What does political newcomer, richest man in the world, what significance does Elon Musk play in this situation?
Well, good afternoon to all the panelists, you and the News World viewers. I think Elon Musk is the advisor now on so many fronts. The official designation that we see given to him, I think he's doing a lot more than that. He's a very dear friend. I mean, he was part of the campaign, and I think President Trump seems to be very, very pally with him both ways. So I think he's playing a very key role. But when you have the richest man in the world besides you, I think the Fed going into a shutdown probably may not matter. I'm saying that in a lighter way. Not a very good Christmas gift, I would say, because Christmas is around the corner. And in that situation, when you're struck with the funds, there are no funds for the Fed. Even the aeroplanes can be grounded. The entire civil services can come to a standstill. And Tom, I was counting from 1976 till date. There have been about 23 shutdowns, and most of them, in fact, the longest of them happened in Donald Trump. I think it was in 17-18. Ravinder would be able to remember 17-18. And out of these 23 shutdowns, Tom, in at least 10 of them, the employees have been furloughed, which means they have been literally asked to go and sit back home. Sorry, we don't have salaries to pay. We cannot afford you anymore because we've got no funds. $36 trillion is the total debt on United States. Out of the total GDP of about 27 trillion dollars, which is 1.3 times, more than 1.3 times the size of the GDP. In the world of economics, we call it as an over-leveraged economy. It's over-leveraged. It's on a very, very slippery surface, I would say, for that matter. So I think as far as Mr. Elon Musk is concerned, it's a sheer coincidence. He's become the richest man, and his wealth has grown, almost doubled in the last few weeks, I would say. He's on close to 480 million dollars, close to $500 billion, I would say. You know, which is a record in itself. He's double the size of Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos combined together. You know, so his wealth has grown. So I think probably that is comforting Mr. Trump, that I have the richest man besides me, so I don't need to worry on funds. But then, yes, it's a very serious issue. And these shutdowns for the largest economy in the world, for the economy to which the world looks up to, I think it's a very, very worrying aspect. And I'm sure President Trump is a little bit used to it as well. I'm sure this will ultimately, what has happened in all shutdowns, it happens for a few days and then finally the Congress agrees. I hope same thing happens, but doesn't get stretched for too long term.
Professor Nalapat, I want to come to you on this next one. We've already heard that over 100,000 government employees might have to continue their job without pay or work for free. What are the immediate consequences for everyday Americans with this matter?
Look, I'd like to point out, first of all, one thing, and that is what Donald Trump has been asking his Republican members of the House to do is basically sacrifice their own seats to save him. Bill Clinton did that. If you recall, Bill Clinton needed one vote more in the House of Representatives, and there was a Democratic representative who had very firmly opposed the measures that he was proposing, and if she voted for them, she'd be voted out in the next election. Well, he kind of forced her to vote yes, and she was voted out. I don't think anything good was done to her after that. She was, from what I understand, just ignored. Donald Trump would like, many Republicans have come to office on a austerity card. They're not come to office on spend card. So the fact is, if they were to vote for this kind of suspension of the limit, they'd lose their seats. And they're not willing to sacrifice their seats for incoming President Trump or later on President Trump. So Trump is faced with a very serious dilemma. People are not willing to sacrifice their seats for him in the way that Clinton forced a Democratic representative to sacrifice. So the point is that if nothing happens by tomorrow early morning our time, well, yes, the US goes into a shutdown, it goes into a lockdown, and it's going to be a royal mess, quite frankly. And finally, the person having responsibility for that mess will be Trump, because it's his people who are supposed to vote for it. As for Elon Musk, he's already being trolled. Oh, President Musk. He's already being trolled as the man behind all this. And I doubt very much if Elon Musk can shell out very much of that $500 billion that Sharad was talking about. That's all shares. And if he sells like that, the shares will sink and Musk will be worth less than $100 billion. So I don't think he can do it. The fact is that today's culture has changed. People are not willing to sacrifice safe seats to save even their own embattled president. And if he comes to office and there is a shutdown, there's going to be a lot of problems for him in his initial days in office. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sachdev, I want to come to you on this next one. Do you believe that Speaker Mike Johnson can create a funding plan that satisfies both Democrats and Republicans in this crazy American partisan climate?
I mean, he definitely is trying his best, but we do not know whether he would. Sorry, one sec. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm there. I'm extremely sorry. Yeah. No, certainly he's trying his best, but I think, the jury is out one. Secondly, to what Professor Nalapat is saying, why the members of the House, some of them are not happy with what Trump is proposing, is because, like, let's say the first bill, it had a budget, I think, of around $110 billion, out of which about $100 billion was for various disaster and related, aspects, and about $10 billion for the farmers, for the lower commodity prices, etc. So each congressman wants some of that money going to his constituency so that, he can win the midterm upcoming. So that's why many of them are wanting, but that's the nature of US politics and budgets, the so-called pork, benefits of these programs going to your constituencies. So if that is not happening, then some of them are happy. So that's, I think the jury is out on that. And especially Mike, though Trump has been standing with Mike Johnson, he's an evangelical Christian, so that also helps Mike. But it is not necessary that he will survive. The other thing is that Mike Johnson, when the next Congress convenes or the House convenes in January, the Republicans have a razor-thin majority. They're about 219 seats to 215 seats of the Democrats. So if a couple, only 2 Republicans move away or are unhappy with Mike Johnson, he's out. And there are names being floated around. In fact, speaking of President Musk, there is also a talk, why not Musk be the Speaker of the House? And by the way, the Speaker of the US House of Representatives does not have to be a member of the House. What has been said is that the members of the House of Representatives shall choose their Speaker and officers. It is not required, though never has it happened that, the Speaker has not been an elected member, but that proviso or that, option is there. So in today's world of, imaginations and possibilities, who knows, that possibility is also being tossed around. Though, I doubt it that would happen, but that's where we are.
Thank you. Dr. Kohli, do you think the government tie funding legislation to issues like the debt ceiling or disaster relief, do you think that should be as Trump and Musk suggested?
Well, if you see where this emanated from, I think President-elect Donald Trump is not very happy with the kind of money that has been drained out on Ukraine. He's not very happy with the kind of money that has been drained out in Israel, and supporting these wars here and there. So which is one of the reasons why he's being so careful about the spending. We should forget he's a businessman. A businessman knows his balance sheet. He knows where to spend, where not to spend. If there is a wastage, if there is a pilferage, if there is a leakage, obviously his attempt would be to first stop the funding, and we will reconsider. But coming back to your question on disaster relief and debt ceiling, I think there's Hobson's choice. I really don't think that United States as such at a macro level have got too many options, because where would the money come from otherwise? Because where is it going to be paid from? They have been, I was trying to work out on the macroeconomic front of the US balance sheet overall, and I found they have been adding almost $1 trillion of debt every year and a half. That's the average I took out, between a year and a half. So when a country is adding that kind of debt with no choice, where is the choice with the kind of spending that you have? So what I envisage here, Tom, is that the moment Trump administration is in place, we're going to see some austerity measures. And the first of those austerity measures would be stoppage of all the funding to these wars around the world. I think they will immediately stop, but disaster relief, I think, is indispensable. You can't do away with them. And if there is any need for debt ceiling unlocking, it will have to be done without fail, Tom. But I think, my concern is that they say that when US sneezes, the world catches cold. The stock markets around the world, they open taking cues from the US markets in the morning. The world exchange market is decided and freeze on the basis of the rates coming out of US dollar. 80% of the transactions around the world happen in US dollar. I'm more concerned about the US dollar because that is one currency which moves the world, for that matter. And President Trump has been very categorical, and he warned BRICS that if you take out your currency, I'm going to impose 100% tariffs, and I am really going to lodge a full-fledged trade war. So my concern is the rippling effect of this shutdown. The shutdown may have a governmental effect. It may have an effect on the federal employees, on the civil services, on all kinds of government services. But then there'll be a rippling effect on the US dollar, on the funding, on the international trade, on the international debt. So I think there are ramifications and repercussions which are far-reaching, Tom, which go beyond the boundaries of United States of America.
Professor Nalapat, I want to talk to you about basically, when you look from the outside world, it looks like Trump has a hold on his party. It looks like the Republican Party is all his. But in this motion, obviously, you saw Republicans vote against this motion. How do you think this conflict reflects on Trump's influence in the Republican Party?
Look, Tom, the basic point is dozens of Republicans voted against. The Democrats naturally voted against because they want to leave Trump with a mess when he takes over on January 20th. And I'd like to point out about the US dollar. Biden has done a lot to destroy the dollar. He has put sanctions all over the place. The result is that many people all across the world, whether it's in Asia, whether it's in Africa, the Arab world, they're afraid to hold US dollars. Tomorrow, the country of which they're a national law or their ethnicity is. Remember, many sanctions were imposed on individuals who were not Russian citizens, simply Russian ethnic origin, because they knew some Russian official at some point in time. I mean, you've made millions of people vulnerable to this kind of takeover. And Biden has sequestered a huge amount of assets. The European Union has done that. The UK has done that. And my point is that, frankly, this weaponization of the dollar, the euro, the pound, the Swiss franc is going to have a very dangerous effect. Let's say you're doing deficit financing. Let's say you're putting out $1 trillion. Supposing nobody buys those dollars, people are scared of holding dollars thanks to all the sanctions that Biden has put. He's done a great job for the Chinese of basically destroying confidence in the US dollar as a global currency. Don't forget, Tom, the US dollar has never been demonetized. It's the most counterfeited currency in the world. It's never been demonetized because they want to keep that confidence in the dollar going high. And today you're seeing a situation by which, quite frankly, if the government shuts down, well, the impact on the US dollar, as Sharad correctly said, and frankly, that impact is also may mean that no one's willing to buy dollars given the weaponization of the dollar that we have seen in the course of the Ukraine war. That's a deadly weapon, which is a boomerang effect, and it can boomerang and hit the dollar. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. Mr. Sachdev, I was wondering what your thoughts on Speaker Johnson's leadership was like, given the challenges he is facing within his party.
Interesting question. I think to all intents, he has tried and, he met Trump a few days ago before bringing the second version of the bill that they have now. So his equation with Trump is okay so far. And he is trying amongst the Republican, members to bring about a compromise. So I don't know what to comment on it other than to say that, yeah, there could be some small chance. But I think the big issue is that the suspension of the debt limit or related to that, which Trump has set forth as a goalpost, that is difficult. And Trump was talking about it, but Trump is now saying that, essentially, because otherwise what will happen when Trump assumes office, the Congress and the budget will be in a limbo. He will have to spend his political capital and time, right, with the members of the Congress to get the budget passed, approved, including in terms of the debt limit that he wants. He wants an unlimited debt limit, or at least a 2-year, horizon sort of a thing, so that he does not have any constraints on where his spending programs go. So I think the issue has actually become more complicated now for Mike Johnson because of this particular factor in terms of the debt limit. I think that's the key. But coming back to the impact on dollar, absolutely yes. You see, the US bonds with which the US raises money is not that nobody will buy the dollars, but yes, they will have to attract people more with better interest rates. to buy the dollars, right? So those interest rates on the yields of the treasury bills and coupons will have to go up. That will have its own ramifications. So it is actually, I would say, in a way, suddenly, I mean, this whole budget discussions have brought the matters to, to a front, or to, I mean, down to the brass tacks. Actually, I think is the nuts and bolts which Trump was needing and will be needing to address when he takes over his presidency. If the budgets are not, in place, of course they will be by then, as we know. By past indications, the shutdowns do not long last. They long only for maybe a few days. Only 4 have been of more than certain number of days. So hopefully, I mean, and the U.S. culture is there, obviously, the culture of negotiation, and that's what, coming back to Mike Johnson, is being said, that he will negotiate. I mean, in the U.S. culture, the idea is that you do negotiate a deal, right? So that's what Mike Johnson would be trying right now, I think, his best. But I think this big red flag of the debt limit, suspending that for 2 years, or increasing it to a certain amount, or even doing away with it. Actually, it's psychological.
I am very, very sorry, guys. We seem to have run out of time. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very, very much for joining us. And with that, that is all we have time for. We will be back with more international news updates from across the world.